So tonight I want to talk to you about how understanding your customer health score can streamline your sales process. I know there might be some technical people in the house, and so my hope is that tonight that you can take away from this message some thoughts about how understanding what the experience is like post-sale and on an ongoing basis can influence how you think about your role early on. So just a quick note about Keen. We're a company that thinks a lot about interactions and events within apps, websites, mobile devices, Internet of Things, what have you. So we allow people to measure the interactions across their platforms, stream it to us. From there, we can stream it out to anywhere you want while computing and analyzing those results and then embedding them in various different places around the web. So a lot of our customers use our APIs to not only stream us data, but also embed it in their own applications for internal and external purposes. So these are just some quick examples of what our customers have done to share their data around with internal audiences and external audiences. Pretty exciting stuff. I run the CS team, which is comprised of the folks you see on the board here, or the roles you see here. So we're comprised of CSMs who are really quarterbacks on the account. They manage the life cycle of the customer experience from onboarding to renewal and upsell. They pair with solutions architects who deliver custom solutions, consulting, basically the technical side of the coverage there. Delivery managers are the sort of the glue that keeps everything, keeps the trains running on time, to mix metaphors, thinking about delivery and project management. And then our support engineers really think a lot about the inbound requests, prioritize and escalating those tickets, and then building and maintaining high leverage systems. So that's a bit about my company and my team. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what health score is at Keen and other organizations, and then how it can apply to your pre-sales process. So when I joined Keen a little less than a year ago, I wanted to get some insight into how specifically our enterprise customers are interacting with our platform. Because we're an API company, you can imagine that there's a lot of nuance, a lot of difficulties associated with that versus maybe a typical web-based SaaS platform. And I realized that we didn't have a scalable and repeatable way to understand the health of our accounts at scale. So I asked two key questions. One is, how exactly are customers using our platform? And also, what is the status of our relationship with the company? And so at a high level, we group these questions into two sort of high-level categories. One is adoption, the other is relationship. Not super sexy titles, I understand, but they're very useful. And so at Keen, adoption questions include things like, how are people consuming our API? Are the events streaming in and streaming back out? Or is the volume of that data trending up or trending down? What aspects of our API are people interacting with? How many people are logging into our dashboards and how frequently? On the other hand, relationship is all about the human side of things, as you might imagine. So is our relationship multi-threaded? So do we have relationships with both the frontline engineers who are actually implementing Keen, as well as the VPs and the C-level folks who are owning budget and making the decisions? Is Keen a strategic aspect of the business? Is there risk if our champion leaves? Will we churn the account? So these are the questions that we had at Keen, all sort of along these two factors of adoption and relationship. And if you plot these two questions in this sort of 2x2 here, it really is helpful in terms of triaging each type of customer and putting playbooks around each customer situation. So on the left, you have adoption from low to high, meaning on the low end, they're using maybe part of Keen or not using as frequently, up to high. And then on the bottom, you have relationships. So this is a weak relationship. We might not have executive engagement, up to the strong relationships where we have buy-in across the board. It's very strategic. So in each of these four quadrants, we have playbooks that we execute on based on the situation. So at the bottom left, these are customers that they're not using us a lot, the relationship's not great, and for a number of reasons, we sort of deprioritize the effort we put into those accounts, given the high opportunity cost. At the top left, though, these are customers who are demonstrating a lot of adoption. So there are advocates there, and they're using Keen for probably a specific use case, but we don't have very broad coverage at the executive level. And so in this case, it's playbooking around executive engagement. Let's get our CEO on the phone with their CEO. Let's go over there. Let's talk to them. And let's see if we can go high and wide on the account and drive more adoption into other business units. At the bottom right, these are customers who with whom we have a great relationship, but adoption is low and not very broad. And so in that case, it's about interacting with our champions there to drive more and more usage and consumption of our APIs across our company. But at the top right, this is what I want to talk about tonight, is these are customers who are using a lot of Keen, they're deriving a lot of value from the platform, and the relationship is highly strategic in nature, and we understand what's happening in their business and have really become strategic partners in those. And so as you think about your book of business, this sort of quadrant, this upper right corner, is where you want to focus, because you can imagine that if you can understand your sort of lead flow and your qualification process to target this type of customer, that sort of represents the ideal. And so the question is, how do you, thinking about your book of business, your hundreds or thousands of customers, how can you at scale capture this information about them and manage it in a way that's meaningful? What I found at Keen and other places is there's not a lot of great tools out there to do just that. So we actually built a system to do it ourselves. A lot of engineers in the house, hopefully you understand building it yourself and the joy that comes with that, and also the risks and the challenges that come with that as well. But we built a tool called Valerian, and just as a side note, Valerian, it's not this steel. You're probably thinking Valyrian steel. It's actually spelled differently for the nerds in the house. Just want to throw that out there. But this is cool. Actually, Valerian is actually Latin for growth or health. So that's a pretty great tool, a pretty cool name for a customer health tool, if you ask me. I didn't actually name it. Somebody on my team came up with it, so I would love to take credit, but I can't. And so we use Valerian to do things like we've got a CSM jumping on a call to review an account. We use Valerian to understand how they're using the platform, what the relationship is like. Our support team uses it to understand similar metrics, but then also our sales and marketing teams understand the score and want to integrate it into the way they think about lead qualification. So tool looks a little something like this, not super sexy. It is an internal tool, but it's highly useful. So here we see a breakdown of accounts by status, green being healthy, as you would imagine, a list of accounts based on their score. But when you drill into the account, you see a lot of information here. So we quickly can understand the level of consumption of our APIs. So how many events are coming in, how many events are going out in terms of analysis queries. On the left, you have this health score over time chart, which is really cool. So the line actually, it's last 30 days, and when the score changes, I've got a mouse, okay. So these are actually, you probably can't see from there, but it's contextual information letting us know when the score changed, what happened. And so if the chart, for example, if the curve trends up, it probably means something good is happening. More and more events are streaming in, or they're doing something more strategic. If the curve goes down, there's a reason for that. To the right, we have some contextual information about their query usage, and everything below that's pretty technical. But at the top, we have these two numbers that comprise our health score. So our health score is comprised of these two sort of big buckets that we talked about a moment ago, relationship and adoption. Right now, relationship is manually entered. As you might imagine, there's not a great API for understanding if your product is strategic or not, or if the CEO shows up for check-ins. So for now, until we develop that API, we're going to have to manually enter that. But our adoption metrics are all fully automated. So we can, and in a matter of seconds, look at this dashboard and understand from a customer's perspective, what aspects of our platform are they interacting with? Are they sending us more data or less data? Are they doing things that are helpful or harmful to themselves and to our platform? And so this is all automated using Keen, as you can imagine. And so those two numbers combined represent the customer health score. So all that to say that when we think about these sort of top right advocacy and upsell customers and how they're ideal for sales, we use Valerian to identify who those customers are, and then do our best to feed that data back into the sales team, back into the marketing team, to say, here are the customers that are doing well. Here are the customers that have been in this top right quadrant for months and months and months. What kind of pattern matching can we do against that? What learnings can we glean from these successful customers who have been with us for a long time and have been successful in terms of a lot of different factors, both adoption and relationship. And so the question is, what does this mean for the sales process? And I would say this was a takeaway for me that basic qualification doesn't necessarily mean ideal. That lead qual is just part of the process, and qualification doesn't necessarily mean ideal or long-term successful. It kind of reminds me of a friend of mine in college. This guy would go on a date with anybody, almost literally. He wasn't looking for Mr. Right so much as looking for Mr. Right now. And you can imagine how the sort of long-term success of his relationships, even though the sort of buyer was qualified, so to speak, there wasn't a lot of long-term success for him in this case. And so I think the challenge is to move beyond just simple BANT. You're probably doing lead qual. They probably have all of these things, but are those the same things that lead to a long-term successful customer? They might have the budget, but they might not have senior buy-in, or the customer may have the need for what you're selling, but they don't actually have the technical capabilities on their end to implement, and so adoption never really happens. Or potentially the fit is an okay fit, but it's not a great fit, and so now your implementation team is spinning their wheels, trying to hack together a solution or shoehorn things together. And so really the challenge is to ask yourself, how can we understand what are the characteristics of a long-term successful customer, and feeding that back into your qualification process higher and higher in the funnel. The impact of successful customers is vast. Onboarding goes much faster and requires much less overhead. Time to value increases. You have a reduced support burden over time because the customer actually understands what's happening and has been onboarded appropriately. Churn is reduced, expansion potential is increased, and there's certainly higher likelihood of advocacy, so meaning the development of case studies and references and those types of programs. And so my question for you is how can you as a frontline salesperson begin to influence this process? And as you're going through the motions of lead qual and having these qualification conversations, how can you introduce notions of success into your process so you can begin not asking questions simply of qualifications, are they sort of basically qualified, but is this a customer who, based on what we know about our users, is this a customer who can be long-term successful? Because what we found is that customer success really does begin at customer acquisition, and it's not just when the sales team throws it over the fence to the CS team, and that's sort of a bit of there's some bitterness in my tone, my phrasing there. I apologize for that. But the challenge for you guys is to go back this week to your CS team and talk about health score, talk about your ideal customer profile, get a sense for, does your organization have a notion for what the ideal successful customer will look like, and how can you integrate the systems and processes your team probably has in place already to begin informing your sales process, so you can begin thinking about not only qualifying leads, but figuring out ways you can begin taking those leads and putting them on the path to success earlier and earlier in your process. And with that, that's all I've got. Thanks so much.